Story 1: The Strange and Unsettling Noise. A mysterious encounter at my parents' house. One evening, while visiting my parents' home, I heard a strange and unsettling noise. This was just a few years after I had moved out and started living on my own. My parents lived in a nice house in the countryside, located far from any main roads. I was around 21 years old at the time. The house was situated on a secluded hill, with other houses located on nearby hills, but all of them were accessed via long and winding driveways. Despite the long drive, I always enjoyed visiting my parents because their home was peaceful and serene. My parents usually went to bed much earlier than I did, often retiring for the night around 9 p.m., while I would still be awake when I returned home from their place. On this particular day, I said goodbye to my parents and left their house. The inside lights had already been turned off, and the only illumination came from dim porch lights. My car was parked on the rocky driveway, behind 3 other vehicles, as it had been many times before. As I walked towards my car in the darkness, I took out my keys and was about to unlock the door when I suddenly heard this strange and unsettling noise. I wish I could describe it to you, but I really can't. I was startled by a loud, distressed cry that sounded like an animal in pain. It was unlike any noise I had ever heard before. I quickly turned around to survey my surroundings and saw that the yard was almost completely dark, except for the porch lights. The noise seemed to be coming from the side of the house, so I went to investigate. At first, I didn't see anything, but then I heard the sound again. There was also a growling and snarling noise. Suddenly, a bizarre animal emerged from the side of the house. It was on all 4s, like a person, and was larger than a Great Dane. It had patches of matted fur all over its body, and its mouth was wide open, revealing long teeth. It growled at me and started moving towards me, causing me to feel terrified. I quickly got in my car and backed out of the driveway before speeding away. I called my parents immediately and told them about the creature, not wanting it to harm them. However, they never saw it. To this day, I still don't know what I saw. Story 2: Escape from the Penthouse Party. Many years ago, my friends and I were 21-year-olds who were just starting to frequent bars in Philadelphia, where we went to college. We hadn't had many strange interactions, except for the occasional creepy guy who would hit on us even when we tried to tell him to leave us alone. In July of that summer, we were having a great time sipping outdoor cocktails at a bar in Old City when a girl came up to us. She was around our age, in her 20s, with a really cool haircut and an outfit I admired. She just exuded coolness and seemed like someone we'd enjoy hanging out with. I was smoking at the time and she asked me for a cigarette. She chatted with my friend Amy and me for a little while, complaining about boys and work and things like that. My friend and I were somewhat desperate for friends at this point because all of ours had left the city for the summer, so we were happy to have someone our age to talk to. Eventually, after getting to know each other a bit, the girl asked Amy and me to come to her apartment with her. She told me they were holding a party that evening, then she left. Amy and I decided to go since we had nothing else to do that evening and thought it might be a chance to meet new people. In retrospect, I realized it was not a good idea to follow a girl we had just met to an unknown location. A few hours later, we went to the address the girl had given us, not realizing it was a penthouse on the river. I texted the girl to let her know we had arrived, and Amy started to get uneasy. We had expected the party to be at a 20-something's apartment, not a fancy penthouse. The girl came out of the elevator with a man who appeared to be in his late 30s or 40s. We were trying to be polite, so we got on the elevator with them. During the ride, the girl told us she was a dancer, which I took to mean she was a stripper, but I didn't want to assume or judge. As soon as we arrived at the 14th floor and the elevator opened directly into an apartment, instead of a hallway, I couldn't help but think to myself, so what if she's a stripper? I shouldn't even be thinking about that. The apartment was stunning, with marble floors, a mounted TV, and a large rug. However, Amy and I immediately felt nervous upon entering the room and seeing the 3 men in their 40s. We knew we had to be polite, but this was not at all what we had expected. The girl ran off into another room, leaving Amy and I awkwardly standing in the kitchen with the 3 men, who seemed to be staring at us. One of them even pulled out a bottle of wine and tried to engage us in conversation, while the other 2 continued to circle around us. Amy and I were feeling very uncomfortable at this point, so Amy began making an excuse that we had to leave for a friend's house party. However, one of the men grabbed my arm and said, "You're not allowed to leave." This only made us feel more uneasy, so we sat back down and began planning our next move. As Amy and I tried to figure out how to escape the uncomfortable situation we found ourselves in, we covertly texted each other under the counter for ideas. Around that time, the girl we had met earlier ran back into the kitchen, naked, and one of the men grabbed her and led her back into a room. This left Amy and I alone with the 3 remaining men, who continued to circle around us. Feeling stressed, I decided to step outside for a cigarette. One of the men had been paying particular attention to me, so he followed me out to the balcony. Despite my efforts to ignore him and smoke my cigarette, he stood close to me and stared directly at my face. Eventually, he approached me and started rubbing against me. I pushed him away and backed into the corner of the balcony. It was raining heavily at this point, and I was worried about Amy. I tried to tell the man again that we needed to leave, but he insisted that we stay, and that we're just getting started. I had had enough and threw my cigarette into the rain before pushing open the sliding glass door and leaving. I grabbed Amy's wrist and yelled as I pushed the button to go down in the elevator. However, the elevator didn't move and we were stuck in the penthouse. Frantically, we ran back inside and repeatedly hit the close door button as the man who had followed me to the balcony charged towards us. Thankfully, the door closed just in time and we rode the elevator down to the lobby. But when we got off, we saw that the elevator was going back up to the 14th floor. We were terrified that the men would follow us down and try to catch us again. We ran out into the rain and didn't stop until we were several blocks away. We were both still shaken by the incident and agreed that it was inappropriate for the men to refuse to let us leave after we had repeatedly told them that we needed to go. Amy also told me that while I was on the balcony, the men beside her had said she wasn't allowed to leave and threatened that we would regret it if we tried. The whole experience was unsettling and left a lasting impact on both of us. Hello and thank you for watching my video. I really appreciate your support and I hope you enjoyed the content. If you liked this video, please consider giving it a thumbs up, subscribing to my channel, and hitting the bell icon to stay up to date on all my new videos. Your support means a lot to me and I can't thank you enough for watching. Thank you again and have a great day.